Welcome to Innovate for Impact, an informative mini-series brought to you by Tania Gomez Consulting. In this series, we embark on a journey to explore the remarkable innovations that are shaping the landscape of the NDIS for a more inclusive future. Join us as we uncover inspiring stories of visionary individuals, organisations and technologies that are revolutionising the way we approach disabilities.
Hello there and welcome to Innovate for Impact. Today I'm joined by Daniel Barber, the founder of Socializer Gaming. Welcome, Daniel. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you here at last. I'm really interested to know more about what you are doing at Socializer Gaming. Do you want to give us a rundown about what you're doing and I guess the applications in the disability space?
Yes, so there's a fair bit that we're doing, but I'll bring it down to some of the main components. It's always difficult to pick the key things at the right time with this. So what we're doing is we're using video games to help meet people where they are. So the whole idea is to meet people where they are to get them where they want to be. And we've chosen the medium of video games. So what we do is we use video games because it's a platform that people know, they understand, and it's something that's easy to bond with as well. So when we're doing sessions, we're not therapists. Now, I've got a background as a therapist. That's the work I do, but we're not therapists. It's not therapy. But what we do is we use video games like Minecraft. Are you familiar with Minecraft?
I am, yes. I have 3 sons and a daughter, and all of my sons play Minecraft.
Then you are familiar, and and everyone plays it, right? Now, the funny thing about reason why we use something like Minecraft, for instance, is that Minecraft, there's a ton of things you've ever seen that happens in Minecraft. There's also tons of ways to find out what certain skill sets you have. There's certain things that can go wrong. We actually had something go wrong yesterday where one of the people who work for Socializer accidentally burnt down someone's house with lava. So that was a great learning opportunity. And it's a great place for friends to get together and to explore and to meet new people and so on and so forth, but to do it in an environment where you feel safe. We've also got our Empowering Dungeons and Dragons, where we use Dungeons and Dragons to help you understand yourself and other people better and situations better. Because if you go into, I don't know about you, but if I'm wearing my socializer hat, for instance, I'm more of the socializer guy. I make decisions differently. I think differently than when I'm with my friends, or then when I'm kind of sitting at the couch at the end of the day. I have different ways of making decisions, different ways of viewing the world. But if you're a big, powerful orc and you felt scared and small, the way that Jake brilliantly, because he's a hypnotherapist, the way he brilliantly, you should watch one of the sessions, it gives me goosebumps, weaves in the data that we collect. So we have a questionnaire that gets filled out, and it gives us information about you and what you want to deal with and where you want to end up. And we never talk about it directly because no one wants to sit around and talk about their problems, right? So if you've got a problem where you don't want to go to school, for instance, well, the idea of going to school is very scary, right? As you are. But when you're this big, powerful orc or a powerful knight, you see it through a different lens. And then you can kind of work through certain things. We had somebody who didn't feel like they were being heard. So there was an opportunity put together for him in the story for him to feel heard. And after he said his piece in character, Jake was able to say, and I can't do the voice well, but like, before me is a very brave man. What you've done before your adventurers is so incredibly brave and strong. I see a man in front of me today. Ever since then, he has been a leader. He's gone into studying. Every time he comes into our social D&D, well, our empowering D&D, he has more of a leader role. We're from quiet to someone who's talking a lot. And we've also got a one-on-one that we do as well for people who aren't ready. So the whole idea is that if you're not ready to socialize in groups, you come in one-on-one, and we use these games to help you start socializing, help your nervous system start to relax as well, right? So if you've got an overactive nervous system and you're getting made to go into a public space, okay, then you're going to be feeling anxious or something before you leave, and that's going to build until you get there. And then if you're having a panic attack, you're feeling anxious, you have to wait to be picked up and wait to come home. Same with our group sessions. The whole idea is for these things to happen, that can happen. Anxiety picks up, anything picks up, you can work through it in a space that you feel safe, which is the same as when this house got burnt down yesterday, which sounds terrible, and it was. But the lesson that came from it to help this 9-year-old, to help her work through it, she was very mad. She was getting upset. She was hitting our staff with a pick. But she just held space for her. She jumped off for 10 minutes, came back on, and then got to work through it. Now, that can't happen in a public space. So yeah, from that's kind of how we've been running it so far. And then we've got people in the group, and I'll mention more of this in a moment, who are now requesting things they want as well. So they can all get together and meet new people. And there's been people who've been wanting to get, have been trying to get into services. For one person we're seeing has been over 16 months. And the mum said that when I met him that he won't talk, don't bother. So we talked for an hour. And then he asked, can he come to see me? And yeah, he's now coming every week. So by meeting people where they are, by using something they're comfortable with, an environment that they're comfortable, we're able to get these skills across, to teach these social skills, to help the nervous system relax, all of it far, far easier than doing it in person. And just because you might notice I'm a talker. That's why when we're doing these sessions, I have no trouble. There's things that happen in life that will happen kind of slowly, right? Like a disappointment will happen, a rejection will happen, something will happen. But in video games, it can happen quite quick. And because it's something that's happening quite quickly, we are far quicker to have something go wrong, to be able to work through, to see something go well, and show the strengths, because our biggest focus is to find your strengths, show your strengths. And if you feel stronger, you feel empowered, you know what your strengths are. A lot of things at work problems kind of disappear anyway. And doesn't have to be done a therapeutic way, although it is kind of therapy. It's done in a way of real encouragement for things that people can actually do.
Amazing. So you're using video games as a method to work through challenges that people are having. Are you mostly working with children, or are you working with adults in this way as well?
Yeah. So the most of our people who come and see us actually are adults. So it's got phenomenal results for children. But we've got people who join us at the moment. Now there's two. I have trouble saying this part without crying. There are two people who have joined us, and they were both really lonely and didn't have anyone to play with and to hang out with and to talk with. Because if you're not socializing, you're not understanding who you are. How are you supposed to? I am who I think I am. I'm also who you think I am. And if I say something and it resonates good to you, I realize a good thing about myself. And that's just through conversation. Plus, people with Alzheimer's get together and they will play bridge, for instance. The neuroscientists found out when you take the bridge out of the equation, you get just as much benefits just from the socializing. So one night, they were both new, and one night I jumped onto our server, because we have a server that people are allowed to just go into, and our admin will jump in and see how things are going, but they don't need us. And it was a Friday night, and they were playing together. For the first time in ages, they didn't have to spend a Friday night together. So I feel like I'm going to cry when I talk about it. And I've just found out yesterday that there's 3 of them, and they're writing music together. They're doing a YouTube channel together. And I can't remember what you said. I might be off topic, but one of the people we spoke yesterday, and he said, why are they inviting me? Why are they finding games to play with me? Why do they want me to be part of that channel? It feels weird. I said, because people like you. You're a lovely person. He goes, but I'm the person who asks people to play games. I chase people. And I said, everyone loves you. And part of that has been because he's around the right people, but also because he's gone through our program. He's also been able to test a lot of these things. So yeah, he's now part of something bigger as well. But did I answer the question correctly? I'm terrible at remembering what I've just been told.
Yes, you did. I asked you the age range. So you're talking about that most of them are adults. So we've talked about, so you're using video games to help solve the problem, it sounds like, of isolation, but also, maybe there's also regulation, emotional regulation in there, and there
Absolutely.
might be other skills that they're learning at the same time.
Absolutely.
What is so obviously the benefit is that they get to connect with other people, they get to play, they get to belong somewhere. What kind of impact does that then have on the rest of their lives? What's the outcome?
So this is what's been happening far quicker than I expected. So the impact so far has been that people are making friends, people are getting into schooling, people are taking up. Jake, who's another part of Socializer and an integral part, he does the board game things, and he's taught people how to play Magic the Gathering card game. Because of that, we've had people now going into their local game store and making friends in person themselves. We've also got a young girl who is now, she is now going to school again. She's raising her hand while she's at school. She's making friends. She's even having less of meltdown, I guess is the term. Yeah, what it's doing is it's allowing people to start being able to regulate enough to start doing things that they actually want, and start feeling like they can and have the skills to do it, because socializing is a very, very confusing thing. I know, growing up neurodivergent, believe me, I know.
Most of the people you work with, are they neurodivergent, or is there
everybody? Yeah, it's for anybody who's in need, but that is the main thing, because everyone I hire is neurodivergent as well.
So why is there a need for this service? Why, obviously learning through play is nothing new. I'm an early childhood teacher, so learning through play is, the pedagogy of early childhood. But somehow we forget about play maybe as people become older. I know as an adult, for me, it's fine. It's really hard to figure out what actually play looks like as an adult and what fun looks like as an adult. And apart from things that maybe are antisocial, or, over drinking or over alcohol, or, nightclubs, and I'm almost 40 and I can tell you those things aren't that fun for me anymore. For me, work is fun. I loved what I do, and so work is fun for me. But learning through play is obviously something that is how humans learn.
100%.
Why are these people not learning to socialize at school or in other mechanisms? Why is there a need for your service?
Yeah. So what I've been observing is that people aren't learning at school because there's, how do I say this? So I dropped out of school when I was 14 years old. I thought I was an idiot. I have an IQ of 140, which really means I'm good at IQ tests, but I on paper, I'm an intellectual. So there's something about the school structure, especially if you're struggling with anxiety or struggling to understand what people are expressing or going through. People who with autism have less, what's the word? I've forgotten the word right now. When you see someone's face, then you feel what they're feeling. I can't remember what that's called now.
Empathy?
No, not empathy. No. It's which it comes across as that, but it's if you're smiling, I feel a sense and I smile too. It's mirror neurons. So it's very, very difficult. That's why a lot of people who are neurodivergent like anime, because when they get shy, there's big red, rosy cheeks and they go like this. It's very, very clear what they're feeling. So you're struggling with all of those different dynamics. And when I was growing up, so I didn't work till I was 28 years old, right? So I dropped out 14, didn't work till 28 years old. I had no idea what people wanted. I would come in bouncing like a puppy dog, talk about my interests, get a weird look, and then that was the end. So I felt like an outcast and I struggled, right? Then one day I found my tribe. And then one by one, we all started getting diagnosed one by one. And we're like, I got diagnosed by the woman diagnosing me saying, I said, all my friends are getting diagnosed with autism. I think I have it too. And she goes, birds of a feather. And then just looks at me in shock. She knows that's the most unprofessional way to diagnose someone. But the reason why something like this is important is because if you've been rejected enough and you have rejection sensitivity from being constantly rejected, all these micro rejections as well, and even looks and things not going the way you want, you going off in person to be able to interact with people is very difficult. Depending, for myself, I learned to socialize properly in 2016 by running shows. So we ran 4 bands a night every Friday night for a year, and my inner dialogue was so loud that I couldn't even really hear them speak, because I was so just trying to understand everything that was happening. And I found that I would talk to them and I'd be bouncing off the walls. I was still getting the same reactions. And over time, I started to learn that if I like, here's a great one. What do you do for work? People love that question. They just puts them at ease to hear it, right? They don't want to hear me bouncing at them. So by having a space where you can test these boundaries, you can just turn the computer off if you want to. That is a safe way to be able to start doing this. Now, one of the catalysts, there's been a fair few, one of the catalysts that got me to do this and why I think it's so important is that there was, and this is a bit of an upsetting story, but there was a young man and he was a twin, he was 13. And I met his mum and them through the homeschooling community. We're on a camp. And she found out what I do for work. So she came up and spoke to me, and she said that I have a support coordinator who keeps telling me to put the boys back in school and to make them go into these social groups. And I said, no, you and your family need to grieve what's just happened. That's what needs to happen. And what happened is she was so pressured and so guilted by a support coordinator that she ended up going back into another social group. And the 13-year-old beat a 9-year-old girl so badly that she wet herself and wouldn't come back out. And that's part of the problem. If you're triggered, if your nervous system's going, and you need a safe space to be able to actually test these boundaries, have your meltdown, turn the computer off. We'll chat to you in our Discord server. We'll help you calm down and come back. Do that enough times, and you're just going to learn how to regulate. So that's the reason why we've created. And we're also opening up places where people can start meeting in person as well, because we believe in all of it. So, yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about your background. So you dropped out of school at 14. You didn't work till 28. You're a therapist by background and have now decided to use gaming to solve this problem of socialization.
Yeah.
How did that come about? How did you find your tribe at 28, and how did you decide that your mission, at least your current mission, is around helping other people socialize?
That's a great question. So I say I didn't work because it's easier to put that across. I worked like 2 weeks here and there. I had job network agencies that were putting me into work in factories and stuff that just wasn't sustainable. But essentially, yes, I didn't work. And I had addiction problems for pretty much the whole time. There was a small period there for 3 years where I was in a band and everything was pretty good. And then the band fell apart because going to all the new people, new places, it was so overwhelming. When you don't know how to socialize, you don't know how to regulate, So a lot of my life was actually just chronic depression, suicidal idolization. Like for years, agoraphobia, OCD, couldn't get out of bed, such loud thoughts that I couldn't hear other people talk, and just absolute doom. I couldn't see any way out, and nothing made sense. Everyone else seemed to be getting it. Everyone else seemed to be connecting, and I was always just not getting these connections, getting into, even if I did do work, that I had enough charisma to, in the first couple of days, the boss loved me, and then by day 3 or 4, wanted me gone, because I just couldn't understand what was wanted from me. I just never understood what was expected of me. I still have trouble with it now. So what happened in 2000 when I was 28, I ended up moving to a farm, spent time with some animals, and I realized that interacting with mammals felt a lot like people. It was really lovely time. And then I ended up meeting a young man named Jesse. Who is an absolute legend. He was a nonverbal, he's nonverbal and autistic, and he was the coolest little dude. And I'd never met anyone like him, but the worker he was with, she panicked, and he and I just connected. So I kind of went into that work there, and I found finally something I was good at, something within my skill set. And it took a while to be able to accept that, but I started getting more and more praise. And then I started to realize that caring for people, understanding people's needs is my skill set. And then once I started realizing what my skill set was, I just kind of lent into that. I just did more of that, right? Because everybody you know who's famous and known did what they're good at for the most part, right? So once I learned what I was good at, my self-esteem started to build. I started to be able to make money. I started to be able to change people's lives. And I had a place in the world. I had a status now. I wasn't just the guy who lived in a shed surrounded by trash. Like I was the guy who was actually contributing to people's lives. And then I got into the therapy side of things because I think just because of the neurodivergent mind, I'm very, very good at noticing patterns. I'm very, very good at noticing subtle changes in people. And then I'm very good at triangulating, which I see everywhere. We work in a social, I see it everywhere. But people can just triangulate, which is a whole other thing. It's not common, but it's a massive skill, and it's hard to recognize you have it unless you're around the right people. But anyway, so I realized I could triangulate well, and I could help soothe people, and I could use my voice to soothe people. I could actually start to use my voice. I had the big beard because I realized that men weren't going to listen to me about getting in touch with their emotions unless I had a big old beard and something that would look more masculine, right? Because cut this off and I'm just a goofy guy. And but from there, I never lost my love. When I was working in doing the therapy, I never lost my love for people like myself, people who were just put from service to service, were just misunderstood, swept under the rug, and just forgotten about. I just never forgot about that. And then after 2 and a bit years of doing the therapy, this event happened with this twin and this girl, and it just broke my heart. It just broke my heart. I was just so upset, and I couldn't shake it. And every year in January after New Year's, I sit down and I lock all the doors and I have a piece of paper and I just meditate for a week to a month, whatever is necessary, just to kind of just download the past year and just to kind of get everything together. And I realized that there was nothing for them, and there was nowhere for them to go. And it was almost inevitable. And it was just devastating me. And then I was seeing about the other people that I've seen have been left behind. And I didn't want to be the guy who had to learn business and create this company. I actually was sitting there and I went, oh no, it has to be me. Oh no. So we just started creating it from there. And it was absolute labor of love. It created itself very, very quickly. It's very nuanced, and it was a lot of passion has gone into it. Everyone who's part of it is passionate and excited. I'm always getting ideas and people wanting to talk about it. But it really did come from me continuously seeing this same problem and seeing people being constantly let down and being let down for most of my life until I got myself out of it. I got myself out of it. There was not a single service that did a single thing to get me out of it. I got myself out of it. And I'm seeing the same thing. And so far we're getting people and they're starting to come out of it because they're in our service. So yeah, that's the reason why this exists.
And how many people do you support?
So right now I've got 9 people. The reason we would have more, but I don't believe in growing really quickly. I believe in making sure that we're giving the best service possible and growing when necessary. We're at the point where we need to grow. We have some youngsters in there who are like, when's a new kid coming in? I want someone new to see, which is huge because they didn't want to talk to anyone. Now they're looking forward to having more people in. So I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, we're ready to start letting people in now. And we have a few discussions going on around the place. But yeah, right now we've kept it relatively small just so that we can make sure that we're giving the best service we can, and it's working. So it's fantastic.
Where do you see your service in the future? What are your goals?
We have a lot of goals. So Socializer Gaming is a subsection of Socializer. So we are first and foremost is new game modes coming in. We have a thing where we teach you how to paint miniatures, and I'm trained up in somatic experience, early level somatic experience, and different breath works and whatnot, because I need it. So we're going to be teaching people how to paint miniatures, but also how to regulate, what it feels like to regulate, to recognize what they're feeling now and what techniques work, whilst something to do with hands and hands. So I'm focusing more on the actual purpose of regulation. We're also opening up a hub soon here in Frankston, another one in Warrnambool, where we're going to be running our Empowering Dungeons and Dragons. We also have, I don't talk about this one too much, but I have some people who are teachers, and there's actually something happening near here where I live, which is really exciting, and it's in the same kind of vein, where we're going to put together courses for people who are neurodivergent that teach in all different ways, and got a real humanism approach. So we're going to have like a bit of a school going on as well, which I don't know too much about. I dropped out when I was 14. There's all this lingo they're saying, and I'm like, sure, that's right. Yeah, and we're actually now hiring people who are in Socializer as well. So once you've run through our program and you feel like you're ready to start doing little bits of here and there to start easing back in, we're also introducing that as well. So, and I'm sure there's things that I've forgotten because my brain just sits there and creates ideas all the time, but I'm trying to keep it down. But there is a whole other side actually that we are doing, where we're going to start facilitating different types of art therapy and different types of therapies as well, which I don't think we're going to be covering that through the NDIS, but I don't overly focus everything on the NDIS. I try and make sure it's affordable for everyone and broad enough. So yeah.
And if you have a look at the space that you work in, what other innovation would you like to see happen in the space? What else do you think could be done? Might not be something you want to do, but is there other things that you go, wow, like there's so much need in this area. I would love to see a change being made.
Helping schools and education, for sure. Also needing in this space of in not just gaming, but in I guess in neurodivergency, and what I went through is also proper education for doctors and therapists. It's just crucial. Like the reason why I hire people who are neurodivergent is because we get results really quickly because we speak the same language. We're Mac OS, and we're talking to other people who are like a Windows operating system, and it doesn't gel. So there needs to be just far more education. There needs to be far more education on why adults are so sick and burning out with autism. Why there's so many gut issues and like it's wild. It is insanity. How bad this problem is. And I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of very intelligent people and just got to have these conversations that have been really brought to my attention. And I have terrible gut issues. I have terrible issues from trying to manage in a society that's not quite set up for me. And that's why I'm quite lucky that I've got the resilience that I've been able to create, but it's tough. So I think a big one is also just a genuine understanding of what is happening here, and I think more inquiry into what and why it's happening and how to actually fix it, which is beyond my level of understanding right now.
Yeah, I often wonder. So similar to you, I have lots of friends and colleagues and clients who have recently been diagnosed, or somewhat. I have dyscalculia, and I have a few other neurodivergent categories. I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD or autism, but all of my friends who are say I definitely am. But we'll leave that for another conversation. But I often wonder about the way, like being a teacher and having 3 sons. I'm very big on, schools aren't built for boys is
100%
that I have. But then you think about it, and actually they're not built for girls specifically either. So like the world really isn't built for us. And I think what drives society seems to be consumerism and
100%.
how much money people can make, which isn't really about the human experience.
No.
But
No.
all of that seems very much, at least for me, it all very much seems like there's not really a solution there. I haven't got the solution. Like you look at what we eat or what's cheap to buy or anything, and you go, well, actually, we're eating what the government has said is okay, but actually all of that is political and it's all being driven by an agenda. Our education is all political and run by an agenda.
Yes.
The NDIS, I think the NDIS is an amazing scheme. I know it's one of the best in the world, but it's very much driven by a political agenda.
The latest changes are super evident of that, especially in their language and the stuff and how they're talking recently. The language, not just what they're doing, it's incredibly clear that it is a political agenda. It's incredibly clear.
Yeah, but so the world isn't made then for any of us. It's made for a small amount of people to make a lot of money from us, potentially. And I know that's kind
correct. No, it's all correct. You're 100%. Yep, 100% correct.
Then how do we move forward? So obviously, I love I think it was Mother Teresa had a saying that if everyone cleaned their front doorstep, the world would be clean. Is that the angle you're coming from? You're just cleaning the step within your power of control. You're controlling what you can.
Amazing.
Working through that way.
Just wow to you, first of all, to have put all that together, because that is, first of all, what we talk about in this house. And just quickly, the discussion of what to do just goes far beyond any power we have. But yes, that's exactly our thought. It's exactly our thought. I've got Alan Watts up behind me just to kind of be a reminder. And I've got Krusty the Clown. I don't know if you can see it in this, but Krusty the Clown back there too is another reminder. Yes, that's our point of view. Our point of view is that we're doing what it is that we can do to be able to give people the power to do what they can do within the limitations we have, right? But also within what empowers you and what excites you. And so yes, that is how we're trying to view it. So that's really exciting. I love the fact that you picked that up and brought it down into that, because that's been a big discussion for us lately. So that's huge.
And if we go back to your tagline or your motto, which is meeting you where you are to get you where you want to be.
That's the North Star.
If you look at that, that really is. That could be applied in so many ways. Like obviously there's a therapeutic approach there. And in many ways, like I do something completely different than you. I work with NDIS providers to help them through the audit process. But for me, I guess in early childhood, I think because I come from early childhood, you never expect a 3-year-old to do something other than be a 3-year-old, right? You meet them where they are. And a 3-year-old, yes, there's typical milestones for a 3-year-old, but if a 3-year-old is having a bad day or their parents are getting divorced or they haven't had their sleep or they've eaten something they shouldn't, you completely just meet them where they are.
100%.
There's no judgment around that. It's just, okay, they're having an off day today, they haven't had their sleep, we're going to tailor the rest of the day around them, and then you can then bring them up. And in what I do, which is very different, but I help people through the audit process, because for me, you said people do what they're good at. I'm really good at reading government jargon and understanding what it means. I know that stuff. I'm not good at other things, but that I'm very good at.
Can't imagine. What a skill.
So I use that skill and I, again, meet people where they're at and go, right, they have no idea any of this. So let's meet them where they're at and let's build their capacity around understanding this stuff. So it's not big and scary and it's all very manageable, and let's do that in pieces. And I guess I learned those skills as a teacher. And I learned those skills through working with children who are nonverbal or a myriad of different abilities. And I can use that with people, just people, any people with it come from anywhere. But I find that a lot of people don't have that approach. They don't try to meet someone where they are. They want them to be where they want them to be. And so, you need to work harder to get to this point.
100%.
You're X years old, or you're X years in business, or you're X and you should be here. And so your approach is very different. It's acknowledging that we all have different skills and abilities,
100%.
that we can get there together, and you hold your hand through the process. And then I guess the extra side of that is that you're using gaming as a way to, it's actually very similar to what I would do with children. The first child I ever worked with autism, he was nonverbal, and he was obsessed with the Wiggles. So every single thing we did was the Wiggles. You
There
had
you
the
go.
5-color crayons, the 5, and every activity we did, I used to paint matchboxes, and I would have 5 colors on the matchbox, and then we started with one word. Say one color. If he said one color, would open the matchbox, and inside would be a story that he got. And so we use that to build his vocabulary. And so it sounds like you found their interest in gaming and Minecraft, which is, an interest of many children or many people. And then you've used that interest to really try and build those skills.
Yeah. And also because of the way it works, there's so many different ways to use it if you're intuitive. And you actually don't necessarily need to be intuitive, because so many things can go wrong or right as well. So that's where but I love the fact that you've noticed that, because I've already created this socializer concept around sports. It's called Empowerment Through Sports. It's all written up. It's all just sitting there. I'm just not ready to tackle it yet. I've got another one when it comes to cars and mechanics as well. It's sitting there. I've got a friend of mine who's going to help run it. It's sitting there. I haven't got the energy to start running it, but you're spot on. You're spot on, because okay. So as I started in work, I was 28 years old, right? I'm 39 now. Hey, rock on. We both look young and great. Can you imagine, right, if I was to buy into this sick societal idea of where I'm supposed to be in life, how I would feel? Right? Because I lost so many years. I didn't. It was school and it educated me and it was all perfect. But lost this amount of time. The amount of times that I have people who are 23, 24, 25, who can't work, who are sleeping all day, who are starting to realize that it's not too late, that where they are with the skill sets they already have is valuable and does have a place it can work. And these ideas that are put onto people of how you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to act is so confusing. So having a space where like you can just be yourself, like silly and fun is what we do, because silly and fun can get the job done. I didn't mean to make that sound like a quote. That's great. I'm keeping that. That's awesome. You heard it here first. So I think that acting like an adult, and I don't mean doing your responsibilities. That's important. You can do responsibilities and have fun. But I think acting like the idea of an adult is a form of anxiety. I think it's a form of anxiety. I think having to be proper all the time and having to speak in a certain way, I think it's a form of anxiety. I think it's very, very unnatural. So yeah, I think it's really nice to hear other people saying that having to meet these milestones is just silly. And there's nothing impressive about fitting into a sick society anyway. So
it's true. It's hard though, isn't it? Like I'm 39 like you, and I'm have this 40 birthday looming, and I often think to myself, am I where I should be for 40?
Me too.
Am I happy with, and I think I actually have had a very amazing life, and I'm very proud of the things that I've achieved. And I think other people would look at me, I think people tell me that I'm successful, whatever that means.
Absolutely.
But then you think about it and go, well, isn't it all relative? Like, isn't it about, you could do two things. You could do, is it relative, there's people more successful than me, so I'm a failure. Or you could look at it and go, well, actually, what's my purpose in life? And
what's my capability?
Purpose in life.
Yeah. Am I meeting my capabilities? Yeah.
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 And I guess that's, they do say that the 5 people you surround yourself with, you become. And so I guess it's then that thing about, well, who are you surrounding yourself with, and what are the 100%. Role models you have? Because I know that in different times of my life, lots of people were very influential, and the reasons I took ways was because I had some amazing role models that I was lucky to have that took it upon themselves to help me.
Yeah, me too.
I think all of those chance encounters, whether you call it fate or
I call it fate
or whatever it is, something more powerful than us that has this all-knowing.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
really, maybe then it's just all of our duties to do all of we can with the resources we have.
Yeah,
And that then
100%.
is the way we continue to impact other people and to change the world bit by bit, is to do all of that we can. And there's I think it's a Bible quote, or it's a prayer about, doing everything that you can and knowing the difference between what you can change and what you can't.
Mm-hmm.
I got that wrong, but it's something like that. And maybe that's our responsibility, is just to be the best people we can be, help as many people we can help, and then leave the rest for everybody else. I don't know.
100%. But that goes to every level too. It's on your good days and your bad days, giving the best I can today. For me, if I'd work with people and I'd say, did you go to the gym this week? No, I didn't. Okay, next week. Did you go to the gym this week? No, I didn't. Okay. Did you think about going to the gym this week? Yes. Awesome. Good. That's progress. Did you put, for me, when I was so depressed I couldn't leave the house, the fact that I got out of bed was a huge achievement, right? And that's the best I could do, and that deserves to be celebrated. The fact I could put my shoes on was deserved to be celebrated. So it goes on for every single level. Radiohead's Tom York says that the best you can is good enough. Yeah. And it should always be good enough, right? Because we have this, I don't know, probably we, like everybody, that we don't feel good enough unless we something, right? So I hired a Tesla the other day for a joke. I thought it'd be funny because I need to hire a car, so I hired a Tesla. I thought it'd be funny. How I felt in the Tesla, this wouldn't affect me. It's just, I like technology. 2 minutes in, I'm like, I'm the guy in a Tesla. And I was like, oh, it got me straight away. I'm such a dork. But we have this thing, right, where it's like, and it's how things, we touched on already before, it's how things are set up. We're the worker ants, we're the consumers, right? It's unless you have things, you're not good enough. Unless you have objects, unless you have status, you're not good enough. You have a heart that beats in your chest, you're good enough. I promise you that right now. You're good enough. It's a concept. It's purely a concept. If I like the t-shirt you're wearing, that's because I like the t-shirt you're wearing. It's got nothing to do with you, right? So if somebody has an opinion on where you're at, that's an opinion of theirs. But there are these goals we're supposed to meet, but it's purely to keep this beast running. It's not for our benefit. But if you have a heart in your chest, you are worthy enough to have a heart. You are completely worthy to be here, completely valuable to be here. I don't care if you're a drug addict. I don't care if you have anger issues. I don't care what it is that you're doing. You have a right to be here and a right to exist. And you don't need to always be accomplishing things, says the guy who runs 3 businesses and works himself to death for approval. But we won't get into that. So...
Yeah, I'm not far behind you. I run 2 businesses, have 4 children, and doing a PhD. So yes.
Okay. First of all, don't even compare yourself to me. Okay. My best friend did a PhD, and that's insanity. I have a dog, and my neighbor is looking after him. It's too much for me right now. So do not compare us. Okay, you are a superhero.
No, I think it's all that, right? It's chasing someone else's idea of
yes, it is.
what you need to be smart. And for me, the reason I finished school, but I went to TAFE instead of university, and all the teachers were, horrified that a smart girl like me would go to vocational education. But I wanted to work with kids. I love kids, so I did a Cert 3 in diploma in childcare. And I then started teaching the Cert 3 in diploma in childcare. And the only reason I went to university was I was in a meeting and a lady put her hand in my face and said, "You can talk at this table when you have a degree." And I was like, okay, someone else is judging me based on me not having a piece of paper. I know I can get a piece of paper. I know how to learn. I know how to. For me, going through audit is very much like doing an assessment, and you have the criteria. I can pass anything that you tell me what the grade is. That's easy to do. I just didn't think there was a point going to university because I didn't need it to work with children.
Yeah.
But then this lady told me that I wasn't as smart as her, and I knew that I was. So I enrolled in uni that day. Then I did a master's degree, did multiple other quals, and I saw her not long ago. And she asked me, she was on a committee, and I was the chair of the committee, and she was appointed. And I was joking around and I was like, to the other people who knew me, I was like, you have to tell her I'm doing a PhD. Like, she has to.
But you can't tell her. It has to come up.
Right, it has to come up. So everyone was like, so Tanya. And it was wonderful and it was great. But there was a great motivator for me I never knew before then that someone would think that I wasn't smart because I hadn't done something that was important to them.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, I was like, oh, wow, okay, someone else is judging me for not having a piece of paper. I better go and get that piece of paper. I know that I can look after kids. And doing a teaching degree wasn't very hard because I love kids, right?
Yeah.
I know how to do this stuff, something that I can do.
That's your why, yeah.
My why. I can't add. It was funny. I don't know times tables. Couldn't read the time. Couldn't tie my shoes.
Yeah.
And my children, who are even my 7-year-old, has better maths than me, and it's a running joke in the house. Mum, what's this? Oh, she won't know. And I remember teachers saying to me, "We have to learn because you're not going to have walk around with a calculator in your pocket all the time."
Love
and I'm
it.
like,
Love it.
Thank you, iPhone. I am now. I
have
a calculator in my pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. And the ones that used to cost a lot of money, you can get the app version of that for free. So
the technology definitely makes up for your shortfalls and helps you to focus on what you're great at. Right?
100%. And fairly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this interview definitely took a pivot. We've definitely gone off the topic of your the innovation that you have with Socializer, kind of all over the place. But I really enjoyed our conversation.
I did too. Sorry, just quickly, but I did too. And I actually think that what it touched on too is actually important. I think it's important to see that we because these are things that I do believe, there's things that I do agree with, the things that I want to get into more. I think that it went absolutely perfectly. I think that was great.
I think it was too. Last question for you is if there's other providers who want to reach out to you to talk about your business and to see how maybe you guys can work together, or they can have a similar model than you somewhere out there to also help a similar group of people, how would they contact you? How do they go about that?
So you can find us at socializer.life. So it's socializer.life because somebody's sitting on socializer.com for $3,000. So it's probably just going to stay socializer.life. So you can find what you need on there. You can also find us at Socializer Gaming on Facebook as well. And everything you need to sign up is there, and just book a time with me and we'll talk. Always happy to talk. And even if it's not to come in, we love helping in this space. We know we can't do it by ourselves. So if you want to understand how we're doing certain things and want to take on certain things for their models, great. We're going to start training people in empowering Dungeons and Dragons, and they can use it with us or they can use it by themselves. I really don't care. I just want to see people getting helped.
Amazing. Thanks so much for joining me today. It's been awesome.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. It's great.
Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode of Innovate for Impact. Stay tuned for more thought-provoking conversations and innovative ideas that drive positive change within the NDIS space. Remember, together we're shaping a future where innovation and impact go hand in hand.